Welcome, everyone. Welcome back. Pastor Curt, Pastor Nedra, the road to financial freedom. Do you realize it is now the fourth Tuesday in August? August is just about completed. We're right around the corner from NFL football. We're right around, um, NCAA college football has already started. Fall is close by, and we are continuing on to teach about financial principles so that in January 2025, we will be so much better in a better financial position. Uh, I wanted to discuss on tonight as we're in Georgia and the kids have gone back to school. I wanted to touch on dealing with educational expenses. So, if Pastor Nendra, if you could bring up the slide for me, what we're sharing. Yeah, tonight, what we want to discuss and what we want to talk about is dealing with educational expenses. So I know some of you might be like myself, whereby you're no longer responsible for educational expenses. Somebody say amen. Thank God for that. We have gone through, I have gone through that. I remember several years back, I bought a Porsche. And all my friends was asking, why'd you buy a Porsche? Why could you? And I'm like, well, my kids are out of college. I have money now, discretionary income, disposable income. So I'm able to spend some of that money on myself. So if you're in that situation, praise God for that. But then if you are secure in your financial position, you might be also in a position to be able to fund to assist in funding the education for your grandchildren, your godchildren, your nieces, your nephews, someone in your family who may not as a well-off financial position as yourself. So that might come into play. You might be looking to go back and further your education in some endeavor. So that might be a factor as well. But I really wanted to discuss dealing with educational expenses. So we used to have a program here at the church called Learn to Earn, whereby we were teaching our young people how to maximize their earnings for furthering their education. In terms of getting an understanding, for many of us, we didn't understand grants while we were going to school. No one told us about it. So we're just trying to deposit and get them the information needed in order for them to have the resources and the finances available for them to be able to extend and further their education. And if you're a parent, if you're a grandparent, one of the first things that I want to deposit and to get you to understand is if your children are leaving elementary school and going into middle school, you really need to have a conversation with them, begin to discuss with them. Number one, find out if they have desires to further their education and in college. So when we were raised, our generation, college was not an option. When I was raised, I was the first generation to go to college in my family, right? So my kids, college was not an option. Now, 3 generations later, because of the change in the educational system, because of the exorbitant cost of education, you really have to sit down and have a conversation with your children to determine, one, if they desire to go to college. You really need to find out what they want to do and determine if college is a requirement. College is too expensive today to have our children go like we went. As to further education, we understand a high school diploma means very little today, but you really need to determine whether you want to make that investment in a college education, because you can, some of these colleges you're paying $50,000-$60,000 a year only for children to graduate with a significant amount of debt, but come to find out the degree that they have is either worthless or they cannot get a job in their degree discipline. So it's very vital that you have these conversations at a very early age so you can set expectations. The next thing I would say is, one, if they desire to go to college, let them know It's their responsibility to pay for college. I don't care how wealthy you are. I don't care how much money you have. Okay. The reason I'm saying that is simply because if they believe they're required to pay for it, they're more apt to work harder in middle school and high school, right? You want them to get them thinking you're going to need a scholarship. You're going to need, whether it's academic or whether it's athletic, you're going to need somebody to pay for your education. I will supplement, I will help, but they need to take responsibility at a very early age for the cost of their education. What happens many a times, you see it, especially for those, or you may have seen it, especially for those who have a level of affluence, because the children have no stake in the cost. They don't know what it costs, or they see the bill. Right? I remember I used to go, we used to go to the financial aid departments, and then they would say, "This is how much your child is going to get," and said, "Here's the balance." And then everybody would look at me. When I say everybody, I mean the kids and the wife, the financial aid analyst and assistant who was helping us. They pass the paperwork around, and the paperwork ends up with me, and they're like, "How are you going to pay for this?" So you want your children to understand at a very early age they are responsible for paying for their education. They are responsible for getting the grades, right? To get the grants, to get the scholarships in order for them to pay for their education. You want them vested. If they're vested, they're more apt to succeed in college. You want them understanding that the finances, the resources are there, even if we're not wealthy, even if, because not everybody's wealthy, not everybody has the resources to be able to pay for college. And we're going to discuss this when we talk about college loans. College loans is not the first option. College loans should be the last option. Right? I'm going to say that again. College loan, put that in the chat. College loan should be the last option. We should not be leading with student loans. Okay? We should be leading with their scholarships are available. We should be leading with their grants that are available. We should be leading with there's resources and there's finances out there for children who are willing to work for them. One of the challenge, and as a parent, you're going to have to work with your children in terms of having them locate the scholarships, helping them write the papers, and because they have to write papers many a times to get the scholarships. You can't just plug it into AI. These college institutions, they'll be looking to flag for individuals who have just plugged a topic into AI and generated, a paper in order to get the scholarships. No, you have to get them to understand and grasp. Okay. You have to get them to understand and grasp the responsibility that befalls upon them, because once they're 18, they are now considered adults. And many a times what's happened in our society, you go back 3-4 generations, at 18 individuals were out the house, at 18 individuals were on their own. And we know that the financial ramifications and the challenges that individuals have in doing that today, but it still can be done. There's still the military. There's still people you can go, you can join the military, do that for 3-4 years, get GI benefits, come out, they will pay for you to go to school. There are programs that people can do. My niece is doing that right now. My cousin's doing that right now. She's in the military. Okay. But and part of the reason she's there is because she did not take advantage of the opportunities that were available to her in high school. So when she got out of high school, she did not have many options. So one of the options was to go into the military, right? It's like a second chance. Now you start taking things seriously. You're getting paid, and you can begin to further your education while Uncle Sam is paying. But again, I'm starting out saying we're talking about finances. We're talking about education, right? One of the many a times, and one of the challenges we have is we know things are coming. Okay, like one of the things we're going to talk about, I believe on next month, is getting prepared to shop for Christmas. We know Christmas is coming. You don't have to wait to December 24th in order to start shopping for Christmas. You see a sale, you see something, you see something, and you see something that would work for somebody. It's on sale. You pick it up. By the time Christmas comes around, you should be done. Okay, you shouldn't be go out in the malls and just to window shop and just to get the ambiance of the season, but you don't have to spend any money. Okay, because it's already done. Don't don't wait to the last minute. Don't wait to the last second in order to start figuring out things. Sit down, have the conversation with your children, begin to drill it into their heads. The same way we from the time my kids were 5 years old, they know they were going to college. It was not an option. And whenever it came up, we let them know college is not an option. You are going. That conversation has to change. Do you want to go to college? If you're going to go to college, how are you going to pay for it? Begin to let it get into their head at a very early age. They have to pay for college. There's funds, there are finances, there's money out there available to you, right? Again, and this is not college, again, find out what they want to do. If it's a trade, what trade? Okay, what do you want to do? And how much is it going to cost in order for you to do that? Okay, we're in a different time. We're in a different economic season. Okay, so this is the thing. And again, if you're grandparents, you should be talking to your children so they can talk to their grandchildren. Because many a times they're like, oh, we got 6 years. If you're going into middle school, we got 6 years, and then, oh, we got 4 years, and then, oh, now they're a junior. By the time a child is a junior, if they have not prepared themselves for, post or for the education after high school, it's a little too late. And there's an economic cost to it, and far too often today, and some of you in the chat might be still paying off student loans, right? 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, it's turned into a mortgage. You're still paying off student loans. And what we're trying to do, all right, wisdom dictates we don't want our children to replicate or have to deal with the same things the same issues we have to deal with. Why? Because we're smarter and we're wiser now. We have a little more experience. Okay, have the conversation. Have the conversation. What do you want to do? What do you desire to go to college? Okay, how do you plan to pay for it? Okay, and we're going to talk about student loans. We're going to talk about 529 saving plans. But the key is getting them to take responsibility for their own education, and then you supplementing them, as opposed to you taking primary responsibility for their education. Again, you would get better results from young adults. Some of you know because I preach, I talk about this sometimes. So, I went to school full time and I worked full time. And I distinctly remember in my first year. So in my first year, I went to where? I was in New York City. I went to Baltimore, Towson, Maryland. It's the suburbs of Baltimore, Towson State. In my first year, I did not work full time. So I was a full-time student. I had an individual in one of my classes. The only reason he was in college was because he had an inheritance that was left for him, and part of the stipulations was he had to get a college degree. All he wanted to do was play in a band, okay? But he could not get access to the money unless he went to college to get a college degree. You have some individuals in college who are perpetual and full-time learners. So they're just continually going to college, right? So again, this may not be directly to you, but I wanted to bring this up because again, is it back to school? We wanted to have this on the record. One of the things when we look at Dave Ramsey model, one of the things is saving for education, and saving for education for your kids. And again, maybe it's your grandkids, maybe it's your nieces or nephews, as a present to them, or maybe it's a godchild, right, to help out. But either way, in terms of financial literacy, in terms of understanding finance, the key is we don't wait till the last minute to try to figure out how we're going to pay for something. If you plan ahead and you do it consistently, by the time that comes about, the resources are there, and then you have options in terms of the resources are not needed. So it's better to have the resources and it not be needed than to get to that time and not have the resources. So that's what we're talking about today. Okay. So first thing we're going to talk about is something that we're all familiar with. It's student loans. Okay. Okay. And the key, the key again, if you're not, and this, we're talking about college, but it's post elementary education. So whether you're going to college, whether you're going to a trade school, so anything after college is, and we're dealing this just full transparency. I pull information from different places around the internet, and this is another one of our Clark Howard teachings, okay, articles. So we're talking about student loans, and basically, student loans are when you request finances, but you have to pay them back. So we're going to discuss how student loans work, who should consider applying for them, and then some of the pitfalls and some of the traps in terms of dealing with student loan. So many of you probably have gone through student loans. You're familiar with it. Okay. If we have any individuals who are younger parents who might be watching this, I don't see any on the live. Okay. Well, yeah. So if you have younger parents, maybe you didn't have to do student loans while you went to school. So we just wanted to bring it to your attention. So we know student loans are finances to do post-secondary institution like colleges, universities, technical schools. But the key is you're going to have to pay it back. That's the key. And you're going to have to pay it back with what? With interest. They're not just giving you the money. Okay. And unfortunately, it's a vicious cycle. So the more funds that are available through student loans, the higher the cost of the education. So you can see a direct correlation in terms of cost of education and the amount of money that's available for student loans, but it's bolded here. Okay, it's bolded here. Student loan borrowing should be your last resort. And you want your kids to understand this. So many times kids, young people, when they're graduating high school, they want to go to college because their friends are going to this college. They don't factor in costs. This is why we're having this discussion. This is why we're having this teaching. Young people don't factor in the costs, right? Some of them want the college experience, but they're not factoring in the costs. You, as someone who's financially aware, someone who's financially educated, you want to sit down with them and you want to factor in the costs. Sometimes they can't afford the college. It's just like if you're buying a house or just like if you're buying a car. If they can't afford it, then they need to find a cheaper option. Okay. And if after having that discussion, they choose to do it anyway, that's on them. They're an adult making an adult financial decision. But again, you want to make them aware. You want to make them aware of, this is a financial decision. This is not a social decision. Okay. So, and we'll talk about this. There methods in terms of reducing your cost to your post-secondary education. So, we have a situation where we have a family member, they live in Tennessee. In Tennessee, you get free community college. Anybody in their right mind, if you're fiscally responsible, you would take that. You would go, you would get the 2 years, and then from that, you would choose to decide which 4-year institution you want to go to for the final 2.5, 3 years. So you would end up with an associate's degree. The associate's degree is free. But yet you still have people in Tennessee, even though they have the ability to get a free associate's degree, they pass that up because they don't want to stay at home, right? They want that college experience. So they're going to pay $20, $30, $40, $50,000 to have the college experience. Now you tell me, 2 years out of your life, $50,000 later, financially, it does not make sense. What financially makes sense is you get an associate's degree for 2 years, figure out if you like college. You know how many people go to college and realize this is not for me? Okay. First, figure it out. They're giving you the opportunity to do a trial, try it and see if you like it. Okay. So this is important for us to understand, because some individuals have really adversely affect their life and the financial outcome simply of decisions they make at 18, 19, 20, because someone didn't sit them down and get them to understand this costs $50,000. Okay. And it's and many times because you love your child, you're the one footing the bill. But what I'm saying is drill it into their head that they're footing the bill, whether you're prepared to pay for it or not. See, the thing is, you want them to take responsibility, because as long as it's on your dime, it's just simple. It's human nature. If you're going to lunch, and you're going to, Cheesecake Factory, let's say you're going to lunch, if it's on your dime, you might spend $10, $15, $20. If I say, I got you, Katie bar the door, you're going to get whatever you want. It's like, yeah, get whatever you want. No problem. I got the credit card. Right? And that is the thing you have to understand. Okay. So that's what we're talking about. Okay. Just so you understand that there's a difference between federal loans and private loans. I believe the federal government has primarily taken over the loan process. For those of you who are coming in late, what we're dealing with is paying for education. And some of these things, when we talk about the 529s, you'll see that allows you to save for K-1 through 12 as well. So you can utilize those finances if you want to send your children to private school. It's not just for post elementary or post K through 12. Okay. So, but I wanted to bring this to your attention simply because we're back to school. And I know for a fact, many of you have not even thought about it. You're not even thinking about it. And your kids are, going into middle school, or they're freshmen in high school, and you're not factoring in, once your children in high school, you should be really beginning to contemplate what's going to happen. Those 4 years go by extremely quickly. Those 4 years, take it from someone who lived through it twice. The 4 years, you think it's a long time when they're going into freshman, you turn around, they're a sophomore, you turn around. Once they're driving the junior stage and they have the freedom, okay, because they have a vehicle, yeah, you'll find out. You'll look back on this and said, I should have listened. Okay. So the different types of loans, there are three primarily. They're the direct subsidized loans. And the key I want you to focus on is where you see right here, does interest accrue while you're in school? So the direct subsidized loans, the interest do not accrue while you're in schools. And you see the limits that a person can take. The direct unsubsidized loans, right, as you start to go higher in the amount, you see interest begins to accrue while you're in school. And they expect you to start paying it back while you're in school. And as well as the direct plus loans. Now, so many people were waiting for, President Joe Biden to forgive their student loans. But you see, him doing all of that didn't help him in the election. They got rid of him. So I did not hear if Vice President Kamala Harris, she didn't say if she was planning to try and continue to assist individuals who are paying off their student loans. We don't know if that will be part of her platform, but we're pretty sure that will not be part of Donald Trump's platform, because he was in office before and he did not choose to do so. So, keys: direct student loans have fixed interest rates, and the amount depends on your needs. And the direct student loans, direct subsidized loans, are intended for people who are in greater financial need. Okay, so, and if you're in need, the government will extend these loans to you. And normally, when I went to school and when my kids went to school, they came up with a financial aid package. So some of it contained grants, and then federal, Pell Grants. In Georgia, we have I forgot the name of the grants in Georgia. It'll come back to me. But and then whenever was left over, you ended up taking a loan. Okay. You have direct unsubsidized loans. So if you need more money on top of the $5,000, right, they'll go to unsubsidized, and then they have the direct plus loans. Now, as the third option, parents can help their kids by taking out plus loans, which are issued at a fixed rate. Okay. Don't do this. Don't. Okay. This is why I told you in the beginning that as the kids are going into middle school, you want to have this conversation. The same way any financial advisor will tell you never co-sign a loan. That's biblical. Right? I had a woman ask me, I was teaching her in a previous church, we're teaching finances, and she said her son asked her to co-sign. He was a grown man with a job. And I said, no, don't do it. Don't do it. If you co-sign for anything, that means you're primarily responsible. If you co-sign for a car, you might as well just buy the car in your name. Because if you're co-signing, that's what you're doing. You don't co-sign. And for you to take out a loan for your children to go to school, okay, again, they have no direct stake. So say you take out a loan for your children to go out of school, and halfway through a semester, they drop the class. Well, guess what? You just paid for a class, okay? You just paid for a class that they didn't take, because there's a disconnect between what's being paid for and who's paying for it. And the thing you have to understand, those of you parents who are not familiar, unless your child signs a waiver with the institution, you do not get access to any information about your child. Any parent will tell you, once you're paying, you want to get access to the school portal. You want to be able to log in and see their grades, because the school will not, the child has to give you the access. The school will not, because your child is an adult and they're dealing with your child and your child only. They're not dealing with you. And if you think you're going to, just because you're paying, you have any measure of control, I'm here to let you know you're sadly mistaken. That's why you have the conversation with your child. That's why you sit down with them and let them know. Do you ask the question, do you desire to go to college? What do you want to be when you graduate high school? What do you want to do when you graduate high school? Is college an option? Is trade school an option? What do you want to do? Okay, how are you going to pay for it? Get it in their head, get it in their mind. They have to pay for it. No matter what you do on the back end, get it in their mind. They have to pay for it. I will help, but it's primarily your responsibility. You don't know how frustrating it is to pay $25,000 for a semester, and your kid was partying. Or even yet, they were trying to do something good, and they're out there working. So you're paying, they're out there working so they get extra spending money, but in their working, it's affecting their grades. So they're getting the money, but they're not getting the grades, but you're paying for the grades. I'm trying to help you. Believe me, I'm trying to help you. Okay. I would not recommend, it's not in your best financial interest. If you have to take a loan for your child to go to school, that means they can't afford that school. I would pursue another option that's less expensive, whereby you don't have to take the loan. Okay? I skipped too fast. So it's easy to apply. Any of you who have kids who've gone on to higher education, you understand there's a form they call a FAFSA, and the FAFSA helps to determine financially what kind of aid your child can get. I remember, this goes all the way back to when I went to college, and I remember, now my mom was a single parent. She had 2 kids, and with the FAFSA, we didn't even qualify for like a Pell Grant. I'm like, how does all these people get this money? They lie. They lie on the application in order to put themselves in a more distressed financial situation in order for the government to give them the maximum amount of money. Okay. Fortunately, I was a Christian. I didn't lie. I just took the straight numbers because I thought realistically we would have gotten more based upon our situations. Like, no, y'all are doing fine. Y'all don't need our money. So it's like, okay. So that will determine when you fill out the FAFSA. And again, for the majority of us living out in suburbia, you may not think you're wealthy, but they factor in everything. They factor in your house. They factor in your 401k. They factor in all the financial resource you have available to you to determine whether you qualify or not. Okay. And because you're not in the inner city of the southwest side of Atlanta, or the inner city of New York, or the inner city of Chicago or Baltimore, you're not classified as being under the poverty level. Most of the time, you won't qualify for the grants. That's why, again, have the conversation, find out what they want to do, sit them down, getting in their head. You're going to be responsible for paying for your education. So if I were you, I would get all A's, because there are hundreds of millions of dollars available, especially for African-American children, okay? Or children of color, let me say. For children of color, minority students, right? In order for them to further their education. But you first have to prove yourself as being worthy. And that simply comes by doing the hard work. Okay? So filling out the FAFSA is easy. I mean, how much money can you borrow? So the charts, federal loans per year currently range from $3,500 up to the total cost. One of the things you have of your education, one of the things you have to understand, especially when you're dealing with private institutions. Some of us have been through this. The private institution communicates with your child. Your child is now an adult. Your child is invested. They want to go to that school. And the financial institution hasn't, I mean, the educational institution. Well, basically they're trying to, it's a business to them. They're trying to get paid. So they'll say, yeah, $20,000, just sign this and you're all set to go. It'll cover everything. Your child does that 3-4 times. That's $60,000, $80,000. They're coming out of debt, coming out of school in debt. And it does not dawn on them. They're not thinking. Because many of them, they're going for a discipline and they don't even know how much money they're going to earn coming out of school. So one of the things Clark Howard recommends is if you're going to sit down with your child and they're going to take a loan, figure out what is their earning potential, and then if it is last resort, borrow up to that amount. So if you know coming out of school you're going to work in IT, I can tell you in IT in 5 or 6 years, 5, 6, 7 years, depending on what field they get into, they're going to be anywhere between $60,000 to $100,000. You're going to be making a year. Okay, so that you understand your threshold. But if you're going to school and you're going to be a teacher, and I'm going to go get my master's, and I'll take $50,000 for undergrad and another $75,000 for grad, and you're coming out of school with $125,000 worth of debt, and you're going to be a teacher. Make that make sense. You do the math. So yes, you can borrow up. The limits are there. Okay. What I'm trying to get you to understand, I'm trying to get you to think from a financial perspective. The children are thinking from an educational perspective. This is the school I want to go to. This is the school I got accepted in, right? They got nice dorms. You ever checked out a meal plan? Those meal plans are expensive. Okay. All I'm saying to you, you have to think from an economic perspective. But in order to do that, you have to start while they're young. Get it into their head while they're young. You want to go to college? I'll support you anywhere I can. I'll buy you the car. Okay. But you're going to pay for it. So then they understand, the partying in high school, they're hanging out in high school, they're not getting good grades in high school. That will be reflected when it comes time to go to post-secondary education. You should not be rewarding bad or mediocre behavior. If they can't do well in school and in high school, you're already paying for that. You're paying for that in your taxes. If they can't do well in high school, why are you paying for them to go to college? Okay, I'm moving on. So you see the totals, right? $31,000 for dependent undergrad students whose parents obtain a PLUS loan. I told you. What did I tell you? Parents, do not take loans for your kids. Okay, one of the things we'll talk about when we talk about the 529s is the priority. Should you be saving to send your kids to go to college, to school, or should you be saving for your retirement? The thing you have to understand is that you're going to be responsible for your retirement. When your kids get out of school, okay, they have to take care of themselves. If they have a family, if they have children, their primary responsibility will be to take care of themselves and take care of their children. Unless you come in with some contractual arrangement where they'll take care of you, you become secondary. And that's the way it's supposed to be. You're the one who's been working. You should be preparing, right? Road to financial freedom. You're on this road. You should be making decisions that will help you for retirement. So when that comes around, okay, you have made the decisions. Okay. So see that what's bolded there? You should take out as little student loan debt as possible. That's what a financial expert would tell you. You should take out as little as student loan debt as possible. Okay. I was talking to a individual. He's 27 years old. 27 years old, makes $75K a year, right? He is one of those office property management person. He has he's working on the certification on HVAC. He's a certification like electrician, plumbing, stuff like that. So he's your basic handyman. He makes $75,000 a year, and he has no student loans. Think about it. He's 27 years old. A kid going into college, graduating at 22, 23, right, coming out with $50, $60, $70, $80,000 worth of student loan, and now he only has 4 or 5 years of work experience. He or she may not even be working in their field. But even if they're both 27 and they're both making 75,000, 80,000, well, say even one is making 75 without student loan and one is making 90 or even 100,000 with student loan. Okay, the one without the student loans is light years ahead. Okay, and that's what I'm trying to get you to understand from a financial perspective. That's what I'm trying to drill into your head tonight. Okay, the other aspect of being able to help to fund the educational pursuits is what we call a 529. Let me get it here. Some of you may have heard of a 529. Sorry, hitting the wrong buttons here. And it's a savings plan, right? It's just like you have your 401k savings for retirement, you can set up a 529 plan, which is saving for dependents' education, okay? And it can be used post-secondary education, as well as the K-12. So basically, it can be used if your child is in private school. And what's the key to the plan? Is that it's tax-free. So if we send our kids to private school. In the first couple of years in elementary school, they went to Christian school, and then I paid for it out of my net salary. My wife and I, we paid for it out of our net salary. It was after taxes. They did not have savings plans whereby we could have paid for it tax-free, whereby the money that would be going for tuition, we would just set it aside in the plan, and then the plan would be able to pay for the education, for the tuition, and again, we would save money on taxes. So if you're in a situation, or your family, your children, if that or your grandchildren they're going to private school, then it would benefit you to set up a 529 plan, put the money in the plan, and then the plan pays for the education. Okay, so it allows them to pay for college, it allows them to pay for private school while they're in their elementary education, and then it allows them to set up for trade schools as well. If they want to get a CDL, if they want to become an electrician, if they want to become a plumber, any kind of those training schools, the 529 will be good for. How does it work? And this document speaks to every state. Every state has its own plan, okay, or its own rules pertaining to the plan. And all states have a limit on the amount of money that you could use. So what we would have to do in the state of Georgia, and we'll pull up the website shortly, you would have to investigate what's available to us in Georgia. So if you listen to me in a different state, you would have to investigate what's available to you in terms of the plan, right, from that state. Now, one of the things Congress passed, and this is one of the beauties of this, I tell this, again, piggyback to what I say. You get your children to understand they're primarily responsible for their education. They have to pay for their education. But you're going to go ahead and save to help them pay for their education. The beauty of it is, if you save for their education and they choose not to use all the monies, basically now there used to be a limited number of choices in terms of what you can do with the money. Now you can take that money and roll it into your own Roth IRA. So in essence, you're saving for education, but if they choose not to go to education, and favor is not fair, God blesses them, they get the scholarships, they get the grants, and their education is paid for. They took to heart what you said, they buckled down, worked hard, and they're able to pay for their education. All the money you saved comes back to you. Let that sink in. Okay. So, but the thing about the 529 is if you take it out before, you get a 10% penalty. Just like if you're 401k, if you take the money out before without there are specific categories that would allow you to take it out without penalty free. I believe for like down payment on a house, you can borrow from yourself and then pay yourself back. But if you take the 401k, and this is something they don't teach you, and a lot of us, we're young, we're saving up, we move jobs, and then, I got $5,000 sitting there. And you take the whole $5,000, right, to buy in down payment on a car, to do something that you want for yourself. And then what subsequently happened? You get a 33% tax penalty. Well, here with the 529, it's a 10% tax penalty if you do something like that. Okay, let's see what else. So certain things to think about when you're talking about and this is why this is so important. We talked about if you're saving for the 529 and then your kids desire not to use the money, or you choose not to use the money on the child, then now the money can roll over back to you. Many times parents feel guilty because they're unable to give their children everything that they desire and they believe their child deserves. You want to give your children the very best, but ultimately, again, you have to prioritize for your own savings. You have to prioritize yourself over your children. Okay. Unless you work out a deal, or your children just love you so much that you'll put you trust them to handle your retirement. That is not good financial planning. It talks about sticking to age-based portfolios. So basically, the portfolio will be managed based upon the ages of your children and their proximity to leaving high school. So the closer they get to leaving high school, the more conservative the funds would be invested. There are two types of plans. Okay. They're direct sold and commission based. And the recommendation is, you can tell by just the name, the commission based, right? So they recommend you want to deal with the direct sold. The commission base involves paying fees to a third-party broker in order to buy into the plan, and you want to deal with just the plans that are offered by the government and direct sold by the government. So, and Clark broke it down into Dean's list: the best plans, honor roll, the plans that are come next, and then the ones that need improvement. And fortunately for us, living in the state of Georgia, so I'm going to go straight to Georgia. Okay, we have one of the better plans available to us out there. Okay, it's the Georgia Path to College plan. I'm going to pull it up real quick so you get the chance to see the website. Okay, I'm checking to see how it renders on Facebook. So it's just path2college529.com. So if you're in the state of Georgia, it's the path2college529.com. That's the website, and it lays out all the information that you will need in our state in order for you to sign up for and to manage a 529 plan for your child. Now, one of the things that you have to be aware of is that a single plan is dedicated to a single child. So if you have multiple children, you have to create a plan for each child. Same thing if when my kids were younger, my mom used to buy them savings bonds, right? She would buy them a U.S. savings bond for birthdays, for Christmas. Every occasion, she bought them a savings bond. It's not available to us anymore, but it was a great deal for them because, if you just imagine the savings bond is a $50 bond or $100 bond, it would cost her $25 or $50. And when my kids were prepared to go to college, right, the oldest had enough. We used some of it for the down payment on the car, I believe. We used some of it for him to pay for the down payment on his education. And both of them had resources. They had funds. And the thing for you grandparents, again, is time. A little bit over an extended period of time with compound interest by the time the child turns 13. Okay, just imagine. Simply saving $100 a month, right? That's $1,200 a year, over 18 years. I mean, at a minimum, they have $20,000. Okay, and so believe me, as a grandparent, your child will love you to death if on their way to college you say, well, here's $20,000 for your education. Okay. And it can be done. And again, if you just half size it, it's $50 a month, you're giving them $10,000. You give anybody $10,000 cash to do anything, they'll love you to death, right? It's feasible, but the thing is, and why I wanted to bring this to your attention, and many times we have kids in school, okay, and we're so focused on, the activities. We're focused on them, karate, dance, all this money we're spending on them to keep them active at a very early age. If you just match that, okay, and put it in a 529, again, after you have the conversation, they're still responsible for paying for their own education. But if they don't use that money, that's $20,000 you can just roll into your retirement fund. I'm just trying to help. Okay. Let's move down. And they walk through all the different states. So let's finish up with things you need to know about 529 plans. Okay. It says it's better to open a 529 account in your name rather than your child's name. And set the child as the beneficiary. Why? Because it's your money. Okay. If you open anything in your child's name, then it belongs to them legally. So once they turn 18, right then they're no longer a minor. You no longer has control. Okay. So you want to open it up in your name. You maintain control no matter how old they are. You maintain control. And then if they choose not to do right, if they choose not to continue the education, or they choose not to listen to your direction, then you can easily reroute the funds. Okay. And then subsequently, if they don't need the money, they get a scholarship, you can change the beneficiary, right? So you have multiple children. The first one comes along. She's just a smart whip. She got all A's plus. She's AP, because, there you have more women going to college today than you have males, right? She gets a scholarship. She's all set. She doesn't need the money. You take a portion of it, bought her car. She's set to go. Now you change the beneficiary to the next child. I'll say he's a little slower. he's good, he's a good student. He's not failing, but he's not as smart as the first child. Okay, so you're able to easily redirect the funds, and then finally, if he's just as smart as the first one, then you can redirect the fund and roll it into your Roth IRA. You're allowed to you can only have one beneficiary, only have one person on per account. So you may have to open up multiple accounts, right? Like anything else, just like your 401k, you want to understand fees, restrictions, tax rules. Again, if you got to spend money, right, you manage your money, because if you don't manage your money will manage you. So you want to be aware of all the criteria that is required for the 529. Many of them have restrictions in terms of switching between accounts. But again, you just go to the website. If you go back to the website real quick, okay, you see here one of your options is investment options, right? Fees, expenses, talks about daily price performance. So it's just like, for those you have 401k, it's just like managing your 401k in terms of choosing what plans you want to go to, letting you know what the fees are going to be, right? So everything, but today, everything is at your fingertips. The information is available to you. And of course, and here's the catch-22 with anything. The more you prepare financially, the less assistance that's going to be available to you from the federal government, because they're going to say, well, you don't need it. Okay. So one of the ways to get around that is eventually you can emancipate your minor, meaning that you would have to take him off as being independent. So if you take them off, I believe in your junior year, you're going to have to check the tax laws. But if you take them off as being a dependent and have them file their own taxes, when they come around to need and then nobody tells us this, when they come around to fill out the FAFSA, they fill out the FAFSA as an adult, not as a dependent of their parents. So it will not factor in their parents' salary. You're going to have to research that further, because again, I haven't had to deal with this in over a decade or so. So, and many times we're not forward thinking, right? You fill out the FAFSA, you're filling out the FAFSA as a parent for a child, or your child is filling out the FAFSA and they're asking you information. And because they are a dependent, can you be claimed as a dependent? Because they're a dependent, right? The government got you now, because you need to write them off on your taxes. But because you can write them off on your taxes and being a dependent, they factor in you and your spouse's annual income, and y'all are making $100,000 a year. So now you're making $100,000 a year. Your children don't qualify for FAFSA. So you're gonna have, like, with this information, you decide, right? What's more beneficial? Is it more beneficial to forego declaring them as a dependent on the taxes and forego that portion of it, for them to be dirt poor on the FAFSA, to be able to receive as much financial aid as possible? It's just numbers. It's just numbers. You're going to pay either way, right? So if you don't get the assistance, it just depends on which one is going to give you more money. Okay. But what I wanted to discuss with you tonight, we're going to close. We're going to summarize the path to college. I see Pastor Nedger put the path to college. What's the path to college? It's okay. Let me put the URL back up again. So if you're talking about the 529, Pastor Nedger, it's path the number 2. Let me see if I can make this bigger as possible so you can see the URL. Or it's not changing. The URL is not changing, but it's path the number 2, not spelled out 2. It's path number 2 college529.com. Okay, path the number 2. You see it here. Okay, here it is. It's right here. The URL, path the number 2 college, and then add a 529.com. And again, I pulled this information off the Clark Howard website, so you can always go to Clark Howard and look up 529 plans, okay? And he lists all of them over the country. So even if you're not in the state of Georgia, or you're sharing this and you're sending this to individuals who do not live in our state, okay? ClarkHoward.com and 529 plans. He lists all the plans, okay, all over the country. So whatever state you live in, you'll be able to get that information. Let me show you real quick. I'm going to go back to that. See, he lists all the plans from all over the country. So all you would have to do is click on the link, and it'll take you to their plan. And then you can gather and gain the information. Okay. So again, I'm in the state of Georgia, but if you're sharing this document, again, Clark Howard, if you're sharing this video, ClarkHoward.com will get you to all the different plans. Okay. We're talking finances, we're talking education, and many times we divorce the two. We don't think about the financial aspect of our children's education until it's hitting us right in the face. It's like, oh, we got to take the SATs. Oh, we got to think about scholarship. Oh, we got to think about, paying for college. Okay. Well, the same way we drilled it into our children's heads from the time they were 5 that they were going to college, they did not have an option. Okay. What we did not do, we did not drill into their head that they had to pay for it. So we assisted in paying for their college education because we're the ones who insisted that they go. This is a different time. It's a different economy. Okay. It's a different time. You have to first figure out the cost of college is so expensive. The cost of elementary education is so expensive. You first have to figure out if your kids even have the desire to go, and then make them responsible for paying, so then they can work as hard as they can in order to get the best opportunity, right? My kids didn't look into scholarships. They didn't do any of that. Why? Simply because mom and dad is going to pay for it. Okay. So we're talking about the road to financial freedom. We're talking about you not bogging yourself down with your children's education, getting into 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, $80,000 worth of debt so they can go get a degree. And then next thing you know, they're studying African studies. They're not from Africa, and nobody's paying them. Nobody gets paid for African studies. Very few, I shouldn't say nobody, very few people, only the African studies professor. Okay. So I'll quit with this. Okay. We're talking about road to financial freedom. We're talking about, managing your resources, and we're trying to get you to begin to think as the kids are going back to school, have that conversation, sit them down, begin to drill it into their head. Okay. If your desire is to go to college, then you're going to have to pay for it. Okay. No matter what you do in the back end to support them, they don't have to know. Okay. You can surprise them at the finish line. Okay. But you want your children to take primary responsibility for their education. You want to let them know there's resources that are available to pay for their education. Okay. All they have to do is work for it. Nobody gives anybody anything free in these United States of America. Amen. Well, again, it's a pleasure to be able to come before you. And this time I'm going to ask Pastor Ninja just to put up the Cash App for the Road to Financial Freedom. I know the information that we provide is beneficial and is helpful. We got the Ark of the Covenant. I'm looking at the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant is important as well. But all we ask is that you support us via Cash App, right? It's $ Curt Buckmeyer, my name. There you go. All we ask is that you support the road to financial freedom as we continue to research information that we believe that we beneficial and to you. Okay. And just let us know. You can put it in the chat, and those of you, whether you're on Facebook or thank you, Dr. Amherst, the Hope Scholarship for here in Georgia. Well, I have you guys, put in the chat what kind of topics you would like us to cover. We're getting into the we only have, believe it or not, this is August, September, October, November, January. We only have four. Think about it. We only have 4 sessions left. Actually, 3 sessions less than the final session. So if you guys have topics or financial questions, please put in the chat. I'll peruse the chat, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on YouTube. I'll go and I'll double check and I'll begin to hone in on some of the specific topics you wanted to cover. So I want to make sure I cover all our bases. I want to leave no stone unturned. Cover all our bases to make sure you get all the information that you require and all the information that you need. As always, thank you for taking this time to share with us. This is Pastor Curt and Pastor Nedra. We are signing off for the night. You guys have a blessed evening.